Hey everybody, what's going on? I am Jamie Dawn, your evolutionary revolutionary astrologer, bringing you your celestial wisdom for the week of May 28th through June the 5th. And I am a little bit behind because I am currently serving in my role as staff director for Nine Gates Mystery School, which is near and dear to my heart. But I am also wanting to make sure that I get you guys some good information of what you can expect for the week ahead. And hopefully I'm just going to trust that it comes out at the perfect time. So thank you again for your love, your support, your comments. Come find me at jamiedawn.com if I can be of service to you at any time. And let's start with the energy of the week. And on Monday, the moon is moving into the sign of Libra and is going to make a beautiful trine to the sun in Gemini. And so we're going to have a moment on Monday, which happens to be Moon Day, where our confidence within our relationships can get a real boost here. There can be a real nice connection that happens. And we may have this need to communicate reciprocity. So if there's something in our relationships that have felt a little bit unbalanced, or we need something in order to feel a little bit more harmony or cooperation, this is a good time for that to happen. There's an ease and a flow to it with a trine here. And you also might find that connecting in some sort of playful way with others can give some valuable insights. You know, people have a tendency to let their guard down when they're playing, and you get a chance to build some stronger bonds, some stronger friendships, and have an opportunity to learn a little bit more about yourself, about others. One of the greatest ways to learn about ourselves is to have that reflective quality with another. And it also gives us a real sense of connection, because if you think about it, the more vulnerable we are, the more we can relate, the better we can see ourselves in others and draw a deeper connection for ourselves with ourselves to another. And I think the one of the big emphasis of this week in particular is all about community, all about our friendships and how we come together to work together and how we can create this better future for ourselves. Tuesday, Jupiter and the North Node are canoodling in the sign of Taurus, and this makes an opposition to the South Node in Scorpio. And this is the theme because Jupiter is moving a little slowly here through the sign of Taurus now that it's here. It's going to be here for 12 months. But we're getting a little taster right now with this North and South Node, where we're thinking more practically about our future, and we're thinking about the practical things that we need to sustain some sort of thriving structure in our lives. We want that security, we want that stability in our lives, but we have to look at our past, that South Node, and say, where have we wasted things? What still serves us? What do I need to let go of in order to stay open to the new possibilities? And this can be a time where we really start to look at the ways we can be more conservative with our resources. If we felt like we've been spending too much of our time, our energy, our resources on the things that are draining us, this is the time where we may be looking at, okay, let me push that reset button and really focus on the things that have energized me, that have sustainability, long term, long lasting results. We're looking for ways to manifest and expand the things in our lives that bring us more comfort and security. And so consistency is also something that we're looking for. And so if there's been this wild hair kind of thing, or we felt a little restless, especially with Uranus and Taurus, we're feeling a little restless about our resources or about what we possess, if you will, this is a time to just relax. Try not to let the restlessness take over, and offer great gratitude for all the blessings that we have and create some space, because more I'll say better in air quotes is going to drop in for us. On Wednesday, Jupiter canoodles again with that North Node, and now Mars in Leo is making an inconjunct with Saturn in Pisces, and Mercury is officially out of retrograde. So here we are, because Mercury went out of retrograde or stationed direct in May 14th, but now we've had this shadow where, Mercury sort of stretched and yawned and got out of its sort of waking up from the nap kind of thing. Well, now we get the full force of Mercury in Taurus. It's out of shadow. So some new revelations could appear that we didn't see before. And these things revealed can offer great healing on very deep levels. Because remember, with that Jupiter opposing the South Node and conjunct or canoodling that North Node. And then you've got Mars in Leo making this in conjunct or quincunx to Saturn and Pisces. So there's great compassion that can show up and great healing if we're willing to let our heart's desire shine through, if we're willing to allow ourselves to be in our fullness. To truly be alive means to live in our own true, authentic self. We can't live anybody else's life but our own. And so that's maybe something that's really highlighted. Our values are really highlighted during this time. So we need to stay in alignment with our values if we want greater peace. If you're struggling with decisions you've made that weren't in alignment with your values, now's the time to revisit them and say, okay, wait a minute. The quote unquote right thing to do is based on my set of values. Remember, if something is too good to be true, also, it probably is. Vet it out. Perceptions create our realities. Be careful of wearing those rose colored glasses. See things for as they are, own them, and then be open to whatever's next. The more we grab, the more we cling, the less open we are to something even better. And that doesn't mean that we have to let go of all of our relationships and all of our possessions and we have to live a pauper or whatever. What it means is that we meet each moment open and present and not project what we think the next moment or what we think a situation should be, but we stay open to let it reveal itself to us and respond accordingly. We may be driven here with that quincunx or in conjunct of Mars and Saturn to push our agendas forward, but not everybody will share that vision with us. So we need to stay patient. We may need to explain ourselves a few times. That in conjunct is a bit of an irritation, but with that irritation can lead us back home to our truth and being able to share our truth. On Thursday, we have Scorpio, or excuse me, the moon moving into the sign of Scorpio, making an opposition with Jupiter in that North Node, Mercury, Uranus, as it transits through the sign of Scorpio. So this is another reminder and an invitation to look really deep at the things that we need to release, things that have burdened us because we think about the past and we go back into the pain and the wounding. These are the times that we can let them go so that we can form stronger bonds with the present moment. What do we ultimately want to manifest? Form bonds with that, the people with that. There could be sudden news that comes our way regarding some sort of financial matter, something valuable in our lives could show up that we can celebrate and we can be in this deep gratitude place. Also, we may have a sudden interest in putting real practical meaning and seeking understanding to things that were hidden from us before. This is a great revelation time. Not all revelations are bad. Yes, they can be shocking, but it could be one of those things I'll share with you from a personal standpoint. I had this aha the other day being here at Nine Gates where I was working through some deep sadness. And it was just like this undercurrent that was running through me. And then suddenly, in deep meditation and reflection, that sadness, I kept staying with it instead of pushing it away and trying to get rid or let go of the sadness. I surrendered to the sadness, let it be there. And then what suddenly revealed itself was gratitude that I was given something precious to me. One of my values was freedom. It is freedom. And so, in the situation that was coming up that kept creating all this sadness for me every time I thought about it, I was like, wait a minute, this person granted me some freedom. Can I be in this relationship and still have the freedom that I so much need and desire, and they need and desire? And then we can still be in a healthy place. And it was like, yeah, gratitude. They did me a favor because in my past, I would be clinging, grabbing, dependent, seeking their approval, seeking their love, seeking their, whatever it was that I needed from that I thought I needed from them. Let's put it that way. I thought I needed. And instead I was able to surrender to it and go, wait a minute, I can just be. And I don't need that person to reciprocate something in order for me to love myself. I want the reciprocation to stay connected to them, but I can have great gratitude that they broke a bond that I had projected onto the relationship that would have created a codependency. So that was my aha. I invite you to explore your own. Please feel free to share them. We're in a pattern breaking time. This is a time where if you're somebody who's always breaking patterns, that's a pattern. If you're someone who has patterns that are no longer serving you, pause, notice, make a different choice, build that new muscle. It's going to be uncomfortable to start with, but if you're willing to stay with it, you're going to create this new neurological pathway, this new muscle that forms this new habit, and your responsiveness shows up more than your reaction time. This is a time where we can make the impossible possible. We want real results. You want proof. Remember, you have to start changing patterns to get something different. Conversations towards the second half of the week can be really rich and fulfilling if we're willing to take the time, if we're willing to talk about the things that need to be exposed and brought to light, to not be afraid to speak to what is it that I need? What is it that I'm feeling? What's happening inside of me? This is a perfect setup for our full moon in Sagittarius this weekend. So the entire weekend is colored with this full moon in Sagittarius. Friday, Neptune in Pisces is going to make a beautiful trine to Venus in Cancer. There's a brief trine with the moon in Scorpio. We might be seeking transcendence and a need for greater intimacy within our relationship. In order to form greater intimacy, we need to be vulnerable. We need to be authentic and create an invitation, not grab on and pull that person in, right? We want to we want to be able to be open. We need to easily let go. And we need to be able to go really deep into the depths of certain subject matters and look at the patterns, as I mentioned, in our lives that do continue to serve us and let go of the ones that don't. We're working on building that muscle. There's a hope in the future. This full moon can give us hope that if we're willing to nurture and love the things that we seek most in ourselves, and then share it willingly and openly in our relationships, it's going to be pretty magical how there's that give and take. And it doesn't necessarily have to be with humans, it can be with nature itself, it can be with the higher wisdom inside of ourselves. But this giving and receiving love can be easily expressed during this time. And there's a real gentleness that can show up, especially if we have great compassion. Everybody's going through something in their lives. Don't judge, as they say, judge that book by its cover, because you just never know what somebody's walking through. Saturday evening is where I'm Pacific Coast, so it's late Pacific Coast, early into Eastern time or Greenwich time in the morning on Sunday morning. But anyways, late into Saturday night, we've got 13 degrees, full moon in Sagittarius, and there's a brief trine to Mars in Leo. So here we have the moon in Sagittarius. It needs adventure, it needs truth, it needs understanding, and it needs to make sense of things. It wants to have meaning. And so here we are, we're going to be searching for ways in which we can let go of the things that constricted us, that prevented us from having freedom, and start exploring new ways, various ways in which we can have maybe more activity in our lives, more connection, more truth. Friendships can offer an abundance of connection and playful memories. So get out, circulate, have some fun. This can be a time where we can stop for a moment and really look at where we are, where we're setting our sights, where our goals are, and just go, okay, let me look back at the new moon in December, the November, December that happened, the Gemini new moon. What was the theme then? This is a bookend. This is a time where some manifestations can show up. And also, we've got Mercury canoodling with Uranus or conjunct Uranus in Taurus, and Venus will move into Leo on Monday. So there's more of this energy that's building where there's this feeling of excitement, this feeling of fire and passion and adventure. And again, more lightness that shows up. And we've got that stability now that's forming underneath us because we're holding true to our values. And keep in mind, Leo, Venus in Leo, Leo's a fixed sign. So it needs things to be constant, just like Taurus does with Jupiter here and Mercury and Uranus all in Taurus, right? That north node. We want that real sense of structure. We want constant. We don't want a lot of change, regardless of what Uranus is trying to shake up in us. But what Uranus is doing is that Uranus is that great severer, that one that cuts through any old stuff, any stuff that's no longer serving us. So if we can truly be in that place of openness, we can welcome everything. The highlight for the weekend's energy is finding connection and intimacy within relationships while also recognizing and honoring that need for freedom. As I mentioned, my own personal journey, that need for freedom, being who we are and creating interdependence, which actually means mutual and mature dependence on one another. It doesn't mean that I give myself away and I lose myself in this relationship. It means I am sovereign within myself, you're sovereign within yourself. And together, how do we collaborate? How do we work together? That's what this full moon can have us really looking at. We choose to be of service to one another, not as a burden, but as a choice. Now, when Venus moves into Leo on Monday the 5th, and that's why I'm bringing that into this video because I'll still be in my travel time when this happens. And I just want to bring it to a highlight for you guys. But when Venus is in Leo, she's going to be in Leo for 5 months because she's going to retrograde in July until September. So I'll talk about that when it gets closer to that time. But Venus retrogrades every 18 months. It creates a pentagram or a five-pointed star in the sky. And this is a beautiful opportunity for us to think back into 2015 when Venus was retrograde in Leo. At that time, there's going to be patterns that show up, as above, so below. So what was happening in your life in the summer of 2015 and what kind of themes were there? This may be revisited at this time. Now, Venus in Leo is dramatic and flamboyant in its relationships. It wants loyalty and desires to have her loyalty returned. We might also have our expenses going up a little bit during this time because Venus in Leo wants to look good. It needs to be on stage. I consider Venus in Leo like Sir Elton John. We got that vibe. We want to perform and entertain, wear all kinds of fun stuff, be seen by others, but we do have to watch out for going overboard or taking unnecessary risk, even having a little bit of the energy where we can get too overwhelming for our partners. So just watch for that. But if you can be mindful of it, this is a great time to play and to welcome the summertime here in the Northern Hemisphere. Keep in mind, too, Venus is going to be opposing Pluto at the early stages during this time. So that can be a little difficult just in this couple of days as Venus enters Leo when we want to make progress in our lives, but we have to be mindful of our limitations. We could desire to have more, to be more, to show up more in certain areas, especially within relationships, but we need to just relax and hold ourselves back in some way so that we can stay open. Remember, if we're grabbing, then we're not allowing for other things to open up. We collapse that field of opportunity. So we want to stay open, careful not to put undue pressure on relationships. It could blow up in our face. So if you're wanting something different, that desire, that heart's desire here, that passion of Leo shows up and it's like, I need them to do this for me. And it has to be that or we're done. It could ultimatums are not a good thing right now with that opposition to Pluto, but it's a great time to really innovate and look for ways in which we can show up differently. Again, break some patterns. This can be a really intense time where we could push and not hold ourselves back. And I'm just going to invite us, please, please, please try and relax, at least for the beginning of the week, because you will see that things can pay off and that there's this beautiful dance of letting the other person lead, you lead. There's this leadership change that often happens, the give and take, give and receive in relationships. And if we're willing to stay with it and relax into it, then there can be this really beautiful dance. We may value things that have a creative and a dramatic flair during this time. And our passion in our relationships can really show up, especially as Venus moves closer to Mars, which is in Leo right now. And then we've got this conjunction or canoodling happening, the star-crossed lovers, if you will, or the lovers of the zodiac come together. And that can be a wonderful time for relationships to get on the same page. So if you felt like you were disjointed, this is the time where you could really show up for each other. But again, conjunctions are not always easy aspects because sometimes they get mixed up and it could be a power struggle of the masculine and feminine that can also show up. So I'm just putting that little pin on the map. Just watch. You can't if you have two alphas together or two betas together, there's not a lot of movement that happens. There's a lot of locked horns, or for the alphas, it's locking horns, and I think of the rams that go after each other, the battle horns that go after each other, right? And they lock horns until somebody's thrown over to the side. Or if you have two betas, then they just both go, I don't care, and nothing happens. It's too passive, right? So we want that nice balance between the two. We do know that passions are like the element of fire as well. They can either burn with inspiration, so use it, it's great, or watch out because they could become a wildfire and consume and destroy. So again, it goes back to that balance. But there's a wonderful playful side to Leo, and with Venus here, we're looking for ways in which we can energize our relationships, play more with our friends, our family, our loved ones, our beloveds. And if, when in doubt, come back to that beautiful quote from Maya Angelou: people don't remember what you do for them, they remember how you make them feel. So feel light, feel playful, feel inviting, feel accommodating, not to the place where you sacrifice your boundaries, but do it in a way that allows you to be soft. If you have to communicate a boundary, you can do it in a very gentle way and in a way that also says, hey, listen, in order for us to be in this relationship in a way that feels good for both of us, this is what I need, and invite the other person to participate. All right, you guys, I really hope this helps. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. Come find me at jamiedon.com. I look forward to connecting with you when I return. Have such a wonderful week.